Hello, can everyone hear me? I think we're live.
Yes, we are live. Everyone, hello. Welcome to Mardreamin. Thank you for joining us today. We have an amazing speaker here with us, Karla Vince, and she's going to be talking about conditional completion actions. So take it away, Karla.
Thank you so much, and I'm going to start sharing my presentation right here. Let me know if everyone can see it. Perfect. So the much awaited Pardot Completion Actions is finally here. I'm super excited to be able to talk to everyone about Pardot Completion Actions. It's kind of its history, where it started from, where the idea came from, and really how to use it. So let's dive in. And thank you so much for the introduction. Just want to let everyone know a little bit about myself. I'm Karla Vince. I have 10 years of marketing experience with an emphasis on digital marketing, demand generation, analytics, and operations. I love to travel, am fluent in 3 languages, and enjoy collaborating on global marketing projects. So a little bit about today's goal. Um, Conditional completion actions. It's very exciting, but sometimes I don't think people know exactly how to use it or why it's so exciting and how is it a little bit different from the automation rules that we are so familiar with. So today I'm going to cover a little bit more about product conditional completion actions, give some tips and tricks, use cases so that we can maximize this new feature that is under the Marketing Cloud account engagement for Pardot as they rebranded a little bit this year. Special thanks to sponsors. Michelle, thank you so much for inviting me. Without our sponsors, this event wouldn't be possible. So I just want to thank Sir Conti as well as all of the sponsors for the Mardreamin event. So did you know? Did you know that the conditional completion actions feature was an idea submitted to the idea exchange board? So if you're not familiar with the idea exchange board, Salesforce has an idea exchange board where users go in there and put out some new like ideas of features that they wish existed. And then we go in and upvote for them. So really exciting that this conditional completion action actually came from an idea that was submitted by one of our users. So I just want to take a quick poll to see if everyone can guess how long ago it was that the idea was submitted. Do we have the poll?
The poll is running right now. If you go to the poll tab, you should be able to share the results.
Okay. Oh, I don't think it says no open poll, but if people aren't seeing the polls, I just want to put it in the chat just to make sure that people are able to give in some ideas. And the options are, was it 5 years ago, 9 years ago, 11 years ago, or 15 years ago? So those are the options. Can people guess how long ago?
Right now we have 28 votes for 9 years ago, 20 votes for 5 years ago, 14 votes for 11 years ago, 9 votes for 15 years ago.
Oh, very cool.
So 9 years ago is the winner of the poll.
Actually, the winner is 11 years ago because this post was submitted by Catherine Hondard on November 9th of 2011. So I made it so 11 years ago because it's 2022. But yeah, it's been a while. So, these idea boards, they could be going on for long periods of time. So it's so important to upvote for those ideas so that they get pushed up on the roadmap for Salesforce. But super thankful that Catherine came up with this idea. And I'm so excited that we're able to use this now in 2022. Also, another question is, this was a summer release 2022 feature, and I'm just curious as far as how many of you are already using conditional completion actions, or are you still kind of on the fence and haven't really tried that out? So we have that poll going on.
The votes are coming in. So far, we have 25 are not using, 15 are.
Awesome. So I think for those people who are using, I'm curious to see if some of these use cases are those that you are already using them for. And for those that are not, haven't been using the conditional completion actions, hopefully the session will give you some great ideas on how to use the conditional completion actions. Super exciting.
Yeah, final count, about 43 people are not and 20 people are.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's dive into what it is. What is conditional completion actions? So simply put, conditional completion actions is a merger between a completion action and an automation rule. So how do you use it? It's similar to an automation rule since it follows criteria selection, for example, prospect score, a field value, profile, etc. And then this helps narrow the target prospect and take action only to those matching the criteria. So what's the benefit? The action triggers immediately after a prospect interacts with the marketing asset, such as a click or a form fill. So it does not really bug down the system, and it's not retroactive. Plus, it doesn't even count towards the automation rule allowance. So you can save those automation rules for something bigger, something else. As you can see in the example used here, the criteria is selected from the default field. So in this case, it was a job title. And then I created some conditions based on this to tag or send an automated response depending on their match criteria. So that's kind of a use case, but I'll dive in more for this. So before we really start into the use cases, we want to know, where can I use conditional completion actions? So you think you can use conditional completion actions where completion actions are available. However, not so fast. With ease, you can use it on form handlers and landing pages. However, you'll find some caveats with custom redirects, page actions, and file downloads. They work if the person's previously cookied. So if you want to use the ones with the caveats, I recommend that you don't use these actions for critical actions. So just use them if they're not critical. One last thing, conditional completion actions are not available in Pardot list. So just things to take into account when you're using this new feature. Are there any limits to conditional completion action? Yes. Like a lot of the tech stack and like features, there's always some limitations. So let's talk a little bit more about the limitations. You can pick one criteria per conditional group to take action on. For example, you cannot create a group for someone who is interested in product X and also from country Y. There are ways that you may be able to get around this by creating a list and creating the condition based on list membership. But in general, you can only do it on one criteria. You also have up to 6 conditional groups per asset. and up to 15 conditional group actions across all conditional groups per asset. So just take into account when you are using conditional completion actions that there are these limitations, and take these limitations into consideration when you're creating your conditional completion action rule. So now we're going into my favorite use cases for conditional completion actions. So use case number one, so use for campaign hygiene. This is a scenario where you want to keep some of the competitors and people that you don't want into your system. Maybe you don't want them to take the full full completion action. This is a great use case for you to use completion action. So it will avoid folks from entering lists and campaigns or clogging up your sync error queue. So some orgs have very strict syncs requirements between maybe Pardot and Salesforce. So if you're noticing that like in your org, you have a lot of sync errors because you're getting a lot of competitors or people that you don't want to sync to Salesforce, use conditional completion action. This will really clear up your sync error queue and really only add those people that you want to the campaigns or lists upon completion of the form, a landing page, etc. Use for ABM strategy. So ABM has been that buzzword. It's been pretty hot within the last maybe 5 years or so. But this is another way you can use conditional completion action. So for an ABM strategy, you have like maybe an initiative for key accounts. This will allow you to quickly notify the CRM owner when a key account has taken action. And then maybe another ABM would be to see if the account is connected as a current client. You may want to treat these folks differently when they're filling out the form or notify the rep on their account. So it's pretty cool. And now with Pardot and Salesforce, the Slack integration has been big as well. So you can also do this in the conditional completion action. Let's say they match a key account. We quickly want to notify the rep that, hey, a key account person from a key account filled out this EDU quote form, or they filled out your high performance campaign landing page. Let's notify that rep. Another thing is maybe from a customer service or customer success, you want to know like, is there current clients who are filling out forms? Maybe there is something there that the rep can go in and help that current customer out. So it allows you to really personalize that message. You can set different types of responders. You can notify the rep. So super cool feature to use for an ABM strategy and highly recommended. One of my favorite features here. Another one is for webinar registration. So supercharge your webinar registration. Before, you had to create a form for every single webinar registration. Now, if you have a series of webinars and want to consolidate them, you can do that in one form and use conditional completion actions to then register the prospect for multiple webinars. So it's just a better user experience for our customers. So strongly recommend this. Now, there is a caveat to its usage. So if you need to have a native connector to Pardot, like GoToWebinar. So this particular use case for webinar registrations only works with a native connector like GoToWebinar. So just keep that in mind. And maybe that is something that you want to consider when you are looking for webinar platforms. Is it something that natively connects to our Pardot because then you can also see a lot of these activities, as well as create these conditional completion actions to supercharge your webinar registration. And we have other notable mentions. So there are cases, and I didn't put like a screenshot of how I've used it, but you can be proactive in sending resubscribe notifications. Let's say that a prospect is filling out a form to request a quote or needs some type of an action that requires the prospect to have opted in. You can send a proactive resubscribe autoresponder to this prospect so that the prospect can resubscribe back into receiving communication from your organization. So this is also something that we can do with conditional completion actions, and highly recommend this as well. You can also use it for, it goes into the idea of campaign hygiene, or let's say CRM hygiene per se. You can warn people that maybe a prospect email has bounced upon form completion. So if that's the case, you can create a task and then let the CRM owner know so that they can reach out to the prospect or do cleanup work there and maintain good hygiene within our CRM system. So that's a pretty good use case as well. Now, another use case that I think is quite buzzy or hot within our industry is the use of UTM. So, we want to track everything. I know there's some limitations to first tracking, first cooking, and things like that. But I think if you use hidden UTM fields, you can use conditional completion actions on these UTM fields and add them to campaigns, tag them, or even update the source if like the source's field is empty. So that's another way you can use conditional completion actions. It really depends on the org, whether you are doing lead assignment in Pardot or have another system like Lean Data or or Salesforce assignment rules, etc., workflows in Salesforce. But you can lead by through conditional completion too. And if there are certain region or product that you route differently, then you can do so as well using the conditional completion action. So if you haven't tried this out and your org needs this feature, strongly recommend this to see if it works for your org. Now, I do want to bring up as far as the use cases of, when you're thinking, when should I use conditional completion actions versus automation rule? Conditional completion action isn't intended to replace automation rule, but they can significantly reduce the number of rules you need. So that's the great part of it. So really think about how you're currently using automations today and see if some of these can be done using conditional completion actions. As a rule of thumb, use automation rules when you have multiple criteria. You need the automation rule to be retroactive. And also, if you're not necessarily trying to tie to a singular marketing asset like a form or a landing page, then maybe your use case would be more so for automation rule. Now, for conditional completion action, great, because it's a singular criteria. So, it depending on like I spoke in the use cases, if it can be done in a single criteria, it works perfectly well. It's immediate. It's probably the fastest one. And then it's not retroactive. So I use it for current clients, for example. So when they're filling out a form and I check to see if they're a current client, and then I tag them because I'm taking count of how many clients have filled out the form, for example. You don't want that to be retroactive because the stage of the prospect may change in time. So they can become a client, but you want to know when they filled out the form, were they a client? In that use case, use conditional completion actions because it isn't retroactive and it'll exactly know if or only work if the prospect was a current client, for example. Again, if the conditional completion action can be done with less than 6 conditional groups per asset, that's great. And also think about if it can be done with 15 conditional group actions across all conditional group assets, then go with conditional completion actions. So hopefully this helped clear up a little bit as far as maybe for those people who are curious about like how to use conditional completion actions versus automation rules. And also for the people who are currently using conditional completion actions, maybe there are opportunities to bring in some of those automation rules into the conditional completion actions. So that's, we'll try it today. If you haven't tried the conditional completion actions feature, I strongly suggest to go in there, play around with it, and try it out and see if it works for you.
Thank you, Karla, for that amazing session. It looks like we have just a couple of minutes left for some Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in that Q&A tab. We do have one already from Peter, who was asking about using conditional completion actions with the field source. It looks like he had done some testing and it overwrote Pardot's native functionality for new prospects, where Pardot grabs the refer or UTM and enters that value from the source. Have you had a similar experience with that source field?
So if you do put, it's similar to completion action. So in a completion action, you can also create the source equals, let's say, website as an example. Now use the conditional completion actions to make sure that source is empty, because that way it doesn't conflict with maybe some of the UTM portions that you're already placing that source field for, and then designate a source to that. I think that might help when you are dealing with issues where it's overwriting the source field. Use conditional completion actions, make sure that the source field is empty. Hopefully that helped.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. We do have about a minute left.
Yes, and feel free to connect with me also via LinkedIn. I am pretty active in the community space. I co-lead a community group specializing in Pardot in the Irvine area. We do have virtual events as well as in-person events, but I welcome everyone, users, people who are passionate about Salesforce and marketing account engagement, to join, connect with me. I love hearing tips and tricks or notes on the cool things that people are doing with marketing automation systems, with Pardot, with Salesforce. And if you have any questions, I'm readily available via LinkedIn. So strongly would love to connect with you all.
Awesome. That concludes our session today. So thank you again for joining us, and a special shout out to our sponsors. If you haven't checked them out, you can go to that sponsors and resources tab on the top. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do any of this. So make sure to pop into those booths and take a look.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you everyone for joining and tuning in today.